Hello everybody and welcome to one of the 4 heroes were summoned correctly. This time, Ren's perspective in Zeltoble. If you're enjoying this series and this video, don't forget to hit a like and subscribe. That said, please enjoy the video. Go! Run, Saito! Get out of here! Renamaki shouted. He was a 16-year-old high school student who really enjoyed playing VR MMOs in his free time. But what about you? His friend responded, frightened while Ren kept holding a man wearing a black ski mask. There had recently been a string of murders around town. Young high school girls would just vanish near arcades and frequented areas and later be found stabbed to death in nearby alleyways. I'll be fine, just go! Ren shouted as the man struggled out of his grip. Up until now, it had been a typical day for Ren. He had woken up, gone to school, and participated in some club activities before going home. He passed by an arcade on his way home, wanting to check out if the newest issue of his favorite manga was out, but as he walked, he spied one of his childhood friends walking into an alleyway with a sketchy-looking guy. "Why, you little shit, let go of me!" the man said after managing to free one of his arms. He used his free arm to hit Ren in the nose with his elbow, freeing himself from the grip. Once free, the man rushed at Saito, pulling his knife out. He would end this girl if it was the last thing he did as a free man. Ren reeled from the pain. His nose was bleeding, but he didn't care. The adrenaline going through his body was affecting his judgment. He ran behind the man, jumping to grab onto his legs, tripping him over. The blade fell out of his hands, bouncing on the ground twice. "What are you still doing here? Go!" Ren shouted at his friend. The girl finally came to her senses. She shook her head, wanting to get rid of the shock, and ran away. Ren let out a small smile after seeing her leave the alleyway. "It's your fault. You ruined this. It's your fault," the man said, crawling towards the knife. Ren got up, wiping the blood from his nose. Once the man had the knife in hand, he got back up on his feet. "You want to save her so badly, then you'll take her place!" The man gripped the knife firmly and rushed at Ren, impaling him in the side. A massive spike of pain invaded Ren's body. He was already feeling dizzy from when he tackled the guy to the ground, but the pain just made it worse. Mustering his remaining strength, Ren made a fist and punched the man in the face. "Why, you little..." he mumbled, thrusting the knife deeper into Ren's side. Acting on pure adrenaline, Ren attacked again, punching the man twice over. This time, he managed to get the man to lose the grip on the blade. He was losing too much blood and started feeling lightheaded, so he fell on his back. A pool of blood started forming as Ren started hearing sirens. "Ren? Ren!" Saito shouted, fearing for her friend's life. "Are you alright? Did they get the guy?" Ren asked with his remaining strength. He had his hand on the wound trying to stop the blood, but the wound was too deep. It wouldn't have much effect. Yes, Saito softly answered. A soft smile crept over Ren's face. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have ever gotten involved in a situation like this. He would have gone to the police or something. But after realizing that it was Saito, he couldn't just sit on the sideline and wait. He had to act. As his consciousness drifted away, Ren started seeing the light and a falling sensation came over him. It felt as if he was falling through a tunnel of light. Instead of struggling, Ren gave in to his fate and closed his eyes. But after a few moments of falling, he hit the ground. "Is this sand?" he thought to himself after feeling his environment for only a moment. He opened his eyes while getting up. He seemed to be in the middle of some sort of coliseum. Around him were a couple of people, but no one of particular note. There was a man who looked like an announcer and a more important looking man next to him. Maybe some type of nobleman or influential merchant? "Ladies and gentlemen, humans and demi-humans, welcome your new sword hero," the announcer said. Responding to those words, the audience started roaring in excitement. Ren just ignored everything around him. He was still adjusting to his surroundings. His first reaction was pulling his hand to his side to feel the wound, but it was no longer there. He looked over, spotting a small icon in the corner of his vision. Sure enough, the blood and stab wound were gone. I'm sure this must be a bit confusing, being newly summoned and all, but these are your fans. You best smile and wave, the merchant said after noticing Ren's confused expression. Ren seemed hesitant, but complied with the man's suggestion. Wasn't that wonderful? The very first look the hero had in this world, and he saw all of you. Sadly, our hero has a couple of things he needs to discuss, but he'll be back later. So stay tuned. Now let's continue with the regular scheduled battles. It's time for the semifinals, after all, the announcer said, taking center stage as the merchant guided Ren to the exit of the arena. As they walked away, Ren opened up his status window, checking all the information there. It was all similar to Brave Star Online, not to mention that the Coliseum he was in was also reminiscent of that world. There was only one logical explanation. He had died and been summoned to a world that resembled his favorite video game. He seemed to be the swordsman class, since he had a sword stuck to his hand. I apologize for the confusion and the unusual summoning, Sir Hero, but the customs of the land did call for this. A woman, which Ren recognized as the queen from his game, said, bowing to him. Yes, it was quite a lucrative endeavor. I haven't seen such a full stadium in a couple of years, not since the Axe Hero still made regular visits, a merchant said, twirling his mustache. He seemed quite pleased with himself. What exactly do you want from me? Ren asked in a highly unfriendly and cold tone. Forgive me, Sir Hero. It seems we have forgotten to introduce ourselves. I am Queen Mirelia Q. Merrimark, the representative of Merrimark. These people behind me are the representatives of the other nations of our world. We have summoned you here to protect our world from the coming catastrophe. I'm Renamaki, high school student and 16. Ren introduced himself, trying to maintain a cold facade. He was pretty excited about all of this, and hiding said excitement was pretty hard. If you just want me to save your world, though, I'll pass. I don't see what I get out of this, so just send me back home. Please, Sir Hero, we beg of you to help us. According to our legends, we need all 4 Cardinal Heroes to defend against the waves. We're even prepared to offer you a reward in exchange for your cooperation, a representative of a smaller country said. Ren seemed interested in what he had to say, so he added an enticing line. That is, of course, on top of funding your adventures and procuring equipment and allies. You said there are 4 heroes, right? Where are the others? Ren asked. If he was going to work with these people and protect the world, then they needed all cards on the table. Queen Mirelia was the one to answer his question. She explained everything, starting with the coming of the first wave and continuing with the plan set in motion because of it. She told him that he was the 3rd hero to be summoned, and that the only remaining one was the Spear Hero. After hearing all that, Ren negotiated his situation a bit further, securing more funding. In the end, both the negotiating party that spoke for the Alliance of All Nations and the hero felt satisfied with the deal, so they shook on it. Now that we've settled that, we'll continue with the party selection process. I trust the Merchant Council has made the necessary preparations, the Queen said while concealing her face behind an ornate fan. Why, of course, Queen Mirelia. Yes, sir, one of the merchants said. Right this way, Sir Hero. The representatives of the other nations along with the hero followed the group of merchants into a separate room. There, they met the participants of the most recent tournament. In order to weed out the weakest, we scheduled a tournament to see who was worthy of joining up with our hero here. There was a substantial cash prize. Sadly, the victor of the tournament, Nadia, decided to decline the offer. What you have here, Sir Hero, are the contestants from highest rank to lowest rank, the merchant in charge said, all while twirling his mustache. Of course, we'll be paying their fee while they work with Sir Hero, which will be deducted from his budget. Ren looked around the room. There was a white tiger-looking demi-human that kind of caught his attention, but he didn't seem too strong. Ren let out a small sigh. He then said, "Let me make one thing clear before we start. If you can't keep up with me, there's no sense in sticking around. I don't need weaklings in my party." Hearing that statement made the mercenaries burst out in laughter. What Ren had in front of him were the best of the best that Zeltoble, the country of merchants and mercenaries, had to offer, so none of them were pushovers. The statement also impressed the merchants, as it showed how serious Ren was about the situation. "That said, I'll take the 5 who place highest in the tournament," Ren said, arms crossed. The merchant in charge gave a signal, and all but 5 mercenaries were escorted out. Those left in the room were 2 humans and 3 demi-humans. "Why don't you introduce yourselves to our hero?" the merchant asked. Obliging with the request, the mercenaries introduced themselves. A giant panda that walked on 2 legs was the first to step up. She introduced herself as La Sultana. She was a panda-looking beastman. She wore some claws in her hands, along with some armor. After came a man called Stefan. He had a bow in hand and a quiver on his back. A black hood mostly covered his head, and he also seemed to carry a knife. He was most likely some form of assassin. Then came an elephant beast woman who introduced herself as Hermelo. She seemed more like a typical brawler who used her fists. The 4th was a woman with light blue hair who wielded a spear. Her name was Elisa. Once her introduction finished, a man who had a long staff stepped up. He went by the name Ivan. He seemed more like a mage, but he had to be skilled to have entered Ren's party. The party had been assembled, so Ren talked a bit with the representatives of the other nations. They gave him his initial funds to get settled and left. They had other stuff to do and one more summoning to perform. The sooner they got that done, the better. After securing his funds, Ren left the Colosseum, heading into town. It struck him as strange that he didn't spawn in the starting area of the game he so enjoyed, but he gave it little thought. After all, he was in Zeltoble, the country of mercenaries. This nation was known for having the best gear in the game, and he used to frequent it quite a bit when playing Bravestar Online, so starting out here could have its advantages. "Where are we heading to?" La Razuna asked. The hero was likely unfamiliar with the area, and asking the question would probably speed things along. Ren looked at the bag of money he had been given and answered, "To a weapon shop. Equipment is the first thing I'll need to get situated here. After that, getting some leveling done before night might be a good idea." "If it's a weapon shop you're looking for, might I suggest a place?" the elephant beast woman suggested. Although she was acting somewhat shyly, Ren decided to let her lead the way. She lived in the area and might be able to find a better shop that he didn't know of. If worse came to worse, he'd just head to the main shop of the area. The group followed Elemeno's lead for a bit. While walking, Ren noticed tons of sketchy people and shops. He also took note of the Adventurers Guild building and an inn they passed by. In games, you rarely had to care about the inns since they did little but serve as meeting places, or maybe to buy food, but here he'd need a safe place to spend the night. "This is the place," Elmelo said after arriving at a pretty big building. "Oh, it's just the main shop of the area," Ren thought after looking the building over. "Thanks," he said, entering the building. "You lot can wait out here or go in if you want. I'll be back shortly." "Welcome, welcome. What can I do for you today?" one of the shop's attendants said after Ren entered the building. "My, what an interesting sword. You must be our newly summoned hero. Please, wait a moment." The shop's attendant quickly rushed to the back, where she exchanged words with someone. It was too far away for Ren to tell anything apart, but after they finished talking, the attendant walked back into the shop, followed by a merchant Ren recognized from the summoning event. My, if it isn't this sword hero, what can I do for you on this fine day? He asked, rubbing his hands together. He smelled profit to be made and approached the situation carefully. What else am I going to be doing here? I'm here for equipment, Ren coldly said. He didn't like people who beat around the bush too much. It was just a waste of time, and he had leveling to do. Of course. But what exactly are you looking for? My shop specializes in a great many things. We have weapons such as swords, bows, spears, hammers, and such, along with armors. If you're looking for accessories, I'm afraid we don't have those here, but I can direct you to a place that does, the merchant said. I need armor, and maybe a better sword. Mine has pretty poor stats. Using a better one until it gets stronger might be a decent idea, Ren responded. I see, the merchant said. He stopped rubbing his hands together and projected a friendly appearance. Then how about we make a deal? What kind of deal? Ren asked skeptically. You're searching for equipment, and I have an abundance of it. The recent waves have the merchandise flying off the shelves. People want to defend themselves after all, so I have little use for money, especially since we provided that for you. How about I let you keep anything you require in this store in exchange for a couple of favors later down the line, the merchant suggested. What kind of favors? Ren inquired, still skeptical about the whole situation. Getting free equipment to start out with was an excellent idea, but he had no idea what this merchant would ask as payment. And how many is a couple? Nothing to worry about. All I'm asking in exchange for free equipment is maybe you doing an odd job for me, or wielding your influence in a certain way. If you're worried about the quantity, then I'll say, how about 5 favors? The merchant responded. Ren thought over quickly, and agreed to the situation. Owing this man a couple of favors would mean little if he got free equipment from him whenever he needed it. He ended up agreeing to the man's proposition. Fantastic, the merchant exclaimed. Now, Sarah, be sure to treat our hero to anything he may need. He's a valued customer of ours. I'll go get the paperwork. Ren sighed slightly after hearing that. He didn't like the idea of paperwork, but luckily he had other stuff to do in the meantime. What would you like to look at first? Sarah asked him. I suppose getting a better weapon should be the priority, Ren answered. Right this way then, Sarah said, guiding Ren towards the second floor, a place filled to the brink with swords. Ren looked around while Sarah started explaining how the quality was arranged. He walked towards a sword he recognized from his game, had good stats to start out with, and had a good progression if he used it properly. He grabbed the sword to see how it felt. The moment he did, a notification appeared in his field of vision. Weapon copy successful. A couple different things popped on screen, surprising Ren. He quickly got the gist of the situation. Is everything alright, Sir Hero? Sarah asked, stopping her explanation once she saw a look of confusion on the hero's face. It's fine, Ren said, grabbing onto the next sword. Sure enough, the weapon copy system activated once again. Ren then went around the shop, grabbing every blade available. In the end, he unlocked over 7 different weapons. Most were inaccessible at him at the level he was, but that wouldn't be a problem for long. So is there any sword you'd like to have? Sarah asked once they had viewed every sword. No thanks. Turns out my own weapon has better stats than what you have here, so I'll be sticking to it. That doesn't mean I won't get some in the future if you get better merchandise. For now, all I need is some good armor, Ren said. Right this way then, Sarah said, guiding him to a couple of armors fit for beginner adventurers. Ren started trying some on. As he did, the merchant returned, signing some paperwork with the man. It was only a formality, so there would be no problem with Ren getting the merchandise for free, along with basically guaranteeing the merchant would get his favors when he needed them. Ren ended up settling on an armor. was a piece of chainmail that allowed for excellent mobility while also being sturdy and defensive, enough to do the job. By any chance do you have a map of the area I could have? Ren asked the assistant. Wait a moment, she said, rushing to the front desk. She then quickly returned and handed it to Ren. Right, thanks for your service, he said, leaving the store. He had everything he needed from it, so sticking around was illogical. Freaking finally, we've been waiting here for over an hour! Larthasusa shouted at Ren once he came out of the store. Let's go, Ren said, not paying attention to what the demi-human said. He was inspecting the map he had just been handed as they walked to the town's exit. What classes are you guys again? Ren asked. They filled him in, so using that and their level, Ren came up with the ideal hunting grounds for each of them. After 3 minutes of analyzing the map, he'd all he needed and put the map away. They left the capital city of Zeltoble, entering a small path. Surrounding the path were 2 forests, or rather one forest that was cut in half by the path. To the east was a mountain range where Ren sent Stefan, Ivan, and Elisa for the day. To the west was a small desert, for which none of his companions were suited for. And to the north was a small swamp, where he sent El Melo and Larthasusa. He himself stayed in the forest, where weaker monsters lurked. He needed to level up a bit more before he could go to one of the more challenging areas, but most of his companions were already in their high 30s, so they could handle it. He made sure to tell them to reconvene at the northern gate at nightfall. Once the day ended, Ren had reached level 13. It was pretty good for a first day. With only a little more leveling, he would be able to start taking on more demanding challenges and get strong a lot sooner. Night had arrived, so he reconvened with his group and went to the inn. Stefan suggested going to see one of the Colosseum matches while they ate dinner and drank before calling it a night, so Ren agreed. While his companions drank the night away and he ate dinner, Ren watched the match in the arena. There he saw a white tiger-looking demi-human fighting ferociously with a sword. He was fighting an opponent twice his size, but in the end, he managed to win, piquing Ren's interest. You're all free to stay up as long as you want. Just know that we're leaving early in the morning, so don't overdo it. I'm going to bed, Ren said once he finished his meal. The following day, just as he had promised, Ren got up early, getting his hungover party out of bed. Some could handle the beer better than others, but Ren still forced everyone to go with him. They headed to the Adventurers Guild where Ren looked over the missions and quests they had. Sure, he still had almost all the money he had been given, since his equipment was free in the end, but having more money to operate with could do nothing but help. He took a couple of quests and set to complete them with his party. Over the next few days, Ren and company killed many monsters that were terrifying in nearby areas. Apparently a group of griffins was terrorizing a village to the south, so they went and killed 20 of said griffins just as requested. The next quest was a delivery. Ren returned to the capital where he picked up a crate. He and his party then delivered it to its final destination. It was a couple of accessories, pieces of armor, and weapons. Monsters and bandits in the area seemed to always impede the transportation of the items to the towns that were further away, so Ren and his party made sure the items were delivered. After that, they headed to a town that bandits were constantly attacking. They were apparently trying to extort all the resources of the town, but Ren and company made quick work of the bandits, apprehending them quickly and easily. They then went around the forest near the capital, picking up specific herbs that could be used for healing medicines. Luckily, Ren had a skill that identified these herbs a lot more easily, not to mention Ivan knew his stuff. In the end, they managed to collect what they needed for the Gather quest along with a lot more materials. After that, another kill quest was in order, this time killing and defeating some mountain goats that were in the area. They were apparently pretty strong and yielded a good amount of XP. Ren had only been in this new world for a couple of days, but he had quickly acclimated to it. His adventure had only just begun. After a few weeks of traveling the world and summoning the Cardinal Heroes, Queen Mirelia finally returned home. She had been to Siltveld, Fabruey, and Zeltoble, not to mention everywhere in between. but now she returned to her homeland, ready to perform the final summoning. And that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed as always. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you happen to be new. I have to apologize if the audio was bad. My computer was acting up while recording and making way too much noise. I was also feeling kind of sick while making it, so I hope it's okay. I don't have much time to finish all of this, so hope it all turned out well. Yeah. Honestly, lately I've been wondering if I should continue Shield Hero or not. Honestly, the only Shield Hero series that does decent is What If Midoriya had the Shield, the Midoriya was the Shield Hero, and I'm not getting much joy out of writing that. The other series, they are certainly kind of fun to write, but they don't do well for the channel, and honestly that makes me feel bad because I feel like it's a waste that no one wants this, and I feel like I would be better. Seeing as I have some exams coming up, some very important exams, I think I might drop the Shield Hero stuff for a while so I can also focus on a secondary project which I want to work on. So, yeah, this might be the last Shield Hero video for a while. Still haven't decided yet, but I'm just letting you know. Still, hope you enjoyed it. The decision, honestly, what I had on Ren was pretty vague. I know a bit about his world, I know a bit about Zeltoble, but there isn't much info, so I tried filling in the gaps and putting the information of the characters I knew. And one of those names I cannot pronounce. The name of the two Therianthropes, the two beast women, I could now pronounce their names. Don't know why, it's just so hard. Anywho, hope you all enjoyed. Until next time everyone, have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye!